at me. I didn't have to hit any buttons. So I was over here still dancing. All right. Welcome you guys to a delayed Get Crackin' on Christmas live. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. So I was supposed to go live a week ago, but Cape Cod decided to have a massive blizzard. So the storm started on Monday and we lost power at 5 a.m. And we did not get power until midnight on Thursday. But we do have a generator, so we were warm and we had power here and there in the house, which was so appreciated. I have lived on Cape Cod over 20 years now, and we get some pretty crazy storms sometimes. Most of the time our winters are mild, but when we get a storm, we get a good one. And we just lose power a lot here. And I have spent so many storms freezing wherever I was living at the time because we didn't have a generator. So when Chris and I were house hunting, I was like, if the house we buy does not have a generator, that will be the very first big purchase that we do. But this house luckily had one. So very thankful. The Cape has a lot of work to do. I mean, I think everybody has their power now. But there's just a lot of tree damage. And there's like places in the roads that aren't plowed because trees are down. And so there's a lot of work to be done. But thankfully, we are through it. And now it is March. So the thing about me is I don't love winter. I am a summer girl. And one thing I have loved for a very, very long time is I'm part of this event that I now host called Crop on the Cape in March. And so there's so much stuff to do leading up to the event, right? It's in person. There's over 300 people. So there's a lot to do. So, I start working, registration opens in November, and there's stuff that I do in November and December and January and February. And now it's March where the event is next week. And I feel like once I get through this event, it's like officially spring. Like we've made it through winter. It's almost summer. I'm ready to go. So I'm getting excited. This mermaid is getting excited. Although I do know March in New England, who knows what it will bring. And I've had snow on my birthday before in May, so who knows? Yes, it is just like living in Minnesota, for sure. I've been through a major storm in Minnesota before, too. I got trapped there one time when I was at Firefly Farm. Thank you. You guys are noticing this is some new shirk merch in my glitter era. Let's be honest, I'm always in my glitter era. So this is debuting at Crop on the Cape next week, but stay tuned. Hopefully you guys are subscribed to my email newsletter because there will be a pre-order of Crafty gear coming up where you can purchase this new design or my other one that says crafts well with others. It's also the perfect time to pre-order specifically what you want from past designs. As many of you guys know, my Crafty gear, I design myself. I have it printed locally here on Cape Cod, and I ship from my home. Our basement is fully renovated for my business and Chris's office, but we are still limited in space. So there's no way that I can carry every design, every size, every style, every color all the time. So the pre-order is really where it's at. That's when you guys can pick and choose exactly what you want. So stay tuned. Brienne just dropped the link to my email newsletter in the comments. So make sure you guys subscribe. So it is Get Crackin' on Christmas. Really quick. It's March. This is the February Get Crackin' on Christmas. So I'll be back in a couple weeks live and sharing another card as well. But I host Get Crackin' on Christmas on the third Thursday of every month. And this way, throughout the year, I make my holiday cards. So come fall, and where I just feel like it's really, really busy with all of the fall activities and fall holidays, before you know it, it's Christmas. and I want to make sure that I have a stack of holiday cards ready to send to my friends and family. So this is the way I've been doing it for several years now. It helps me shop my stash. It helps me experiment with different techniques, different supplies, and just enjoy the process more. I personally don't like to make the same holiday card many times for all of the people on my list. That's just not what brings me joy. So this way I can make a few every month, and by the end of the year, I'll have enough holiday cards. So always join me on my website on the third Thursday of the month. And then on that blog post is when I announce I will go live. And I'll already have the live scheduled, so you guys can pop on over here to YouTube and tap the bell so that you will be able to be notified when I go live. So if you're watching the replay, in the description of the video is a link to the visual supply list and the blog post where there's pictures of my cards and explanations and full supply list as well. And then of course I've got the linking ninja, Miss Brienne, in the comments that's helping me out with some links as well. Okay. Oh, before I flip the camera, do you guys mind if I chat 2 more seconds, which will probably be like 2 more minutes? I do want to remind you guys that registration is open for my virtual creative journey art retreat. This is an event that I host. It's online, it's open worldwide, and it is happening the first weekend in June. But the beauty of virtual is you guys can take this event whenever you would like after the live. I have quite a few people that join me live. And then I have some people that will just kind of do it in little snippets here and there when they need some creative time to themselves, but they might not necessarily want to do all of the thinking. And it is so much fun. So registration is open now. And what you get in registration is access to the live and to the videos afterwards. You can watch them over and over and again. You get a really extensive handout with coloring guides and pictures of the projects and supply lists. We will make at least 12 cards, although we very often make more. I'm actually in the midst of designing the projects right now. The sponsors really hit it out of the park this time. So not only are you going to be able to make the projects, you get product from the sponsors. Some of the product is exclusive to just us. Some of it is previously released. And then you also get card kits for all the projects that we're going to be making. So there is no homework. Once in a while, I'll have you like spread some paste so it'll dry, or maybe emboss a sentiment. But typically there's no homework. So it's just ready for you to go. And it's just a lot of fun. So you get a box of goodies with supplies and kits and time to create together. So definitely join me if you guys want any more details. They're over on my website. Registration is still open. I'll probably keep it open until a little bit after my event next week, but then registration will close so that I can tell the sponsors what to send me. So make sure that you guys register soon. Okay, now I'm done chatting. I mean, I'm going to keep chatting at you, but let's flip the camera and let's get crafting. You guys will have to let me know if you're crafting along with me today. So the whole purpose of these lives is not only do I absolutely love to share with you guys inspiration, and I love to teach, but I'm also trying my hardest to give you guys time, right? I wish I really knew how to give you guys time, because then I would be like a millionaire. But I'm giving you time right now. I did see a couple of you are at work, so that's not going to work for you. But you can start working on your own holiday cards right now as well. And that doesn't mean you have to make what I'm making, but let's pretend we're getting together in our crafty room, right? I'm inviting you into my crafty room, and we're just going to start creating, right? Susan's asking, when will registration open for the in-person one in November? So Susan, registration for that, for my in-person Creative Journey Art Retreat, is going to open in April. I don't have an exact date just yet, but again, keep an eye on my email newsletters. Email newsletter is really the best way because social media posts, you never know if the social media gods are going to share my post with you guys. So email newsletter is the best. Yay, Andrea saved the weekend. She is registered, and I know Andrea is in Switzerland, and she's registered for the virtual Creative Journey Art Retreat. So like I said, I ship those boxes worldwide. Thank you, Miss Libby. She says this card is stunning. Well, the funny thing is typically we make the card live together quickly after I originally made it. But this one's been quite a while. So I'm hoping I remember what colors I used and such, but we'll get through it. We will get through it. Let's see. Definitely ask me questions as we are going. If it's about what I'm teaching today, putting the word question in all caps helps me see as I am looking down and creating at the same time. Sandy's working with a Christmas set that from last year that she hasn't opened yet. Awesome. I love that. That's a whole reason why I do get cracking on Christmas is to use what maybe we haven't had a chance to use yet. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to start to watercolor all of our little elements on this card. And so I am using distress watercolor pencils. And I am using distress watercolor cardstock. They're my most favorite. And when I'm watercoloring elements like this, I will die cut them out of the cardstock, but then I actually put them back into the backer so that it makes it a little bit easier for me to watercolor the elements. And I just use some of my best ever craft tape to hold it in place. The thing about this, when we start doing this, is it's going to look really messy because we're going to get paint out of the lines. So you kind of just have to trust the process, which is a little tricky when you are learning how to use the distress watercolor pencils or what it's going to look like. So, maybe as a beginner, this might be trickier. You could also just take a piece of best ever craft tape and hold your elements on like we do when we're coloring with our alcohol-based markers. But I think this works out pretty well. I love it. Brienne says, I know the colors. And then she said, never mind, I don't know the colors. She did exactly what I did 15 minutes before I went live. She went to look at my blog post, and I didn't keep track of the colors this time, Brienne. And I even looked, like sometimes I'll pencil it in the card. Nope, I just figured I'd remember. So I'm pretty good with knowing distress colors. So I have a feeling it'll all come back to me. Okay. So the Fa La La La, and the other thing I love about this card is I'm using a bunch of different brands on one card, which I don't do a ton, not on purpose, but it just kind of happens that way. But this time when I was shopping my holiday bin of supplies, I kind of started pulling stuff from a bunch of different brands. So this Fa La 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 is an inlay die from Concord and Ninth. So it does a whole background. I've used this before. And I just absolutely love this font, and I just thought it would be so cute to just put a few Fa La La Las on the card. So that's Concord and Ninth. The Snowflakes, if you guys are not new to me, you know I will literally buy everything in the paper crafting world that has to do with snowflakes, snowmen, and the ocean, mermaids, ocean stuff. I will just buy it. So these snowflakes are from Newton's Nook, but I'm sure over the years I have enabled you for some snowflake dies. So shop your stash, find what you have. The sentiment down here, may your Christmas be joyful and bright, is from this Festive Blooms stamp set from Concord and Ninth. And then this really fun like sprig of Greenery is a leaf flourish die from Simon Says Stamp. So that is that right there. And then I'm using some gems from Honeybee Stamps. I love these gem assortment packs from them. It gives you a great variety of colors, and I love the different sizes. And I just love that the adhesive is on the back. Sometimes that's just the mood I'm in instead of having to put my own adhesive down. So we're going to use some of those. And then, of course, we're going to use some other fun surprises as we get going. All right. So like I said, we're going to start by watercoloring our elements first. So like I said, I am using Distress watercolor pencils. They are my most favorite. If you can't tell by how loved they are in their tins. And so we're just going to go ahead and get started. And like I said, I don't remember exactly what colors I used, but we're just going to figure it out as we go, right? So for Fa La 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 right here, I did kind of like an ombre of pink to red, although it's like a pinky red. So I think what I did is I started with some spun sugar. So this is how I typically use my Distress watercolor pencils, is I have a cup of water and I have my paintbrush and I dip it into my water and I pull color directly from the tip of the pencil. And I've put all of my Distress watercolor pencils into rainbow order. I just go on Ranger's website. They have an Organize Your Ranger Products page, and they have all kinds of like swatch charts and things like that. So I just grab one of the Distress swatch charts and just go in the order that they have them listed. That's how I figured that out. And what I'm doing right now is just adding a little bit of spun sugar over all of the letters. Just kind of a nice even coat. I don't need it to be really dark, but just kind of getting some base color down. Now this is going to dry fairly quickly because it is still winter here on the Cape and we've got our heat running. But I'm going to just set that aside now that I have that colored. Let me just turn my lights down just a little bit because I feel like they're blowing out all the color. Here we go. All right, so there is a little bit of pink on my Fa La La La, and I'm just going to set that aside. Now let's go ahead and do our snowflakes. So this die set from Newton's Nook, it has a back layer and a front layer. I'm only using the front layer, and I just picked 3 of the snowflakes. And it looks like what I did is a little bit of an ombre, and it looks like I did salvage patina to peacock feathers to a blue, and that blue is stumping me. So I'm going to think about it as I work my way in. The blue is in the centers. So same thing that we did with the Fa La 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 is I'm just coloring the whole thing a light wash of salvage patina, keeping it really, really simple. Oh boy, Miss Brienne is really linking today. She's got all the things linking. Hopefully you guys aren't commenting because I'm only seeing Brienne's comments, but maybe. So I saw that Sandy is working with some stuff from her stash, and I might have missed it, but are anybody else working on their holiday cards right now? If you're secretly watching while you are at work, that's okay too. So here is salvage patina all over the snowflakes, and we're going to set that aside. All right, so now as we get into this greenery, I did all kinds of different colors, and I was looking at kind of the style of the leaves and coloring one style of the leaves a certain color scheme and the other style of leaves another color scheme. And then we've got the stem and some berries. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by doing that one style of leaves. And I started, I believe, with cracked pistachio. And again, if I'm using different colors than I originally used, I'm definitely not going to be mad about it. I actually often, when I teach these lives, will switch up color schemes. So there'll be multiple options out there. So we're going to go with whatever my mood is today, but I'm just starting, same thing, by adding a nice light wash of color on one style of these leaves. And you can see how having them die cut, but then placing them back into that piece that we die cut from, just makes it so much easier for me to hold on to the layer, for me to kind of slap some color on, because that's really all I'm doing right now is slapping some color on. And it just makes it so much easier. So this is often what I do. Okay, Heather's on the treadmill. I love that, but she'll be creating later. Martha says, I'm putting together birthday cards that have been already die cut, hoping to catch up to this card. I love that. And Indy says, I'm putting finishing touches on There's Gnome Bunny, but you set of 12 cards, but I have all day. So between chores, I'm going to make something similar to your Christmas card. If you guys are get cracking on Christmas throughout the month and you post your card, make sure you share it with me on social media. Tag me in your post so I can see what you're doing, because I love to see what you're doing. So this is me figuring out what colors I used on the other style of leaves. I'm going to start with pine needles. I kind of don't use these colors very often, so I couldn't really remember which was the lightest color, and pine needles looked a little bit lighter to me. So again, I'm just adding this wash of color onto these other leaves, and this is pine needles. Let's see. Thank you, Dawn. She says it's still going to be gorgeous no matter what colors you use. Chris is taking a decompression day after returning yesterday from a Caribbean cruise. Oh my gosh, so jealous. My guy friends, Brad and 27, just got back on a cruise from a cruise. And they are some of my creative crew fun friends that help me at my events. And they were toying with never coming home. And I said, well, that's not allowed because I need their help at my event. And then 27 said, don't worry, we'll be back because we have so much fun at the event. And he said there's nobody else that he'd love to celebrate his birthday with, because the poor guy, he's one of my best friends. And since we've been friends, he's pretty much celebrated his birthday at Crop on the Cape, because it's always around his birthday. So let's see. Libby's working on some cards, sadly not holiday and for work. Our work could be worse, Libby, right? It could be worse. Hello, Tracy. I'm working on a circus class and it has snow people. Well, there you go. That's get cracking on Christmas. All right, so I'm going to set this aside, let this dry a little bit, and I'll explain why I'm doing this and letting things dry in a couple minutes. It'll make a little bit more sense. All right, let's go back to our fa la la la. So this is dry to the touch. It's still a little cool, but it's dry enough. So now we're going to start to kind of get into making this a bit more ombre. So I'm going to grab some worn lipstick, and I'm going to start to paint this on the bottom 3/4 of these letters. And when I'm doing an ombre like this, I am going to work a little quickly so things will kind of stay wet. But we're just adding some worn lipstick to the bottom 3/4. And again, not putting much thought into it, but leaving that tippity top with just sponge sugar. Okay. Now I'm going to grab a little bit of Festive Berries on my brush and then some worn lipstick. And I am contaminating the tips of my pencils. That does not bother me. I can always dip my pencil in my water cup after to clean it off. If I needed something that was true worn lipstick. This is just my way of mixing the two colors together. You guys know me, I don't want too much red, but I wanted it to be a little bit red. Okay. So now it is kind of a mess, like it doesn't look seamless. So what I'm going to do is take some more spun sugar. We're going back to that original color. And I'm just going to start to dab it from the red towards across the lines of the two different colors, like the red line, and then we've got that pinky line of worn lipstick. Now, the trick is that when you're dabbing, even whether your brush is clean or with color, like I'm using spun sugar just to soften that line, you want to clean your brush every so often because it's also picking up pigment. So it is picking up some of that red, some of that festive berries, and I don't want to keep moving that around, right? You also can go in with just a damp brush, which is what I'm doing right now, and dab between the lines. But we're just kind of like softening the line. There's gonna be a line, but we just kind of want it to look like a little bit more seamless, like it's going one color into the next, okay? And then I'm probably going to stop. Oops, I just got a drip of water. That's okay. But I'm probably going to stop touching it and let it dry a little bit to see what things are looking like, because you can kind of just overwork it. And one, I don't want to lose that light color at the top. And we kind of just want to see how it turns out. Okay. Yeah, Libby says we appreciate him spending his birthday at Crop on the Cape. Your friends are the best. They really are. Like, they're literally looking forward to it. I think they're crazy. I look forward to it, but I'm crazy and a paper crafter. Most of my creative crew friends are not paper crafters, but they still look forward to it, which I love. All right, so now the snowflakes are, again, they're cool, but they're dry to the touch. So I'm going to take some peacock feathers, my little nub. This is all that's left from my original pencil. This is a pencil that broke that I keep in here when I need to do other techniques that I can't do with this little piece. And I'm going to start painting these snowflakes, but just not the very tippity tips of the snowflakes. We're going to keep those salvage patina. So the reason why I colored a light color of one color and then kind of came back and now I'm going in with another color is just to kind of get a base color down, just so that we had something to work with. So it wasn't just white cardstock, and it'll also remind me where to kind of keep that light area, right? So we don't cover it all up. But we're adding some peacock feathers. Now, the centers, I want to say, I don't know. Let me see. Did I use prize ribbon? Or did I use Uncharted Mariner? I think either would work. Or was it chipped sapphire? Oh boy, you guys. I think any of those would work. So this is prize ribbon. This is Uncharted Mariner, and this is Blueprint Sketch. Or no, I'm sorry, chipped sapphire. I think I'm going to go with chipped sapphire. I think any of them would work. I don't remember what I used, but we're going to go with it. So now I'm just adding chipped sapphire to the centers of these snowflakes. Now the peacock feathers is still wet. So you'll see things are running a little bit. That's okay. I'm not going to stop it. And I'm adding some more peacock feathers on the edge to kind of mix and mingle things. Just again, trying to keep the tippity tips the lightest that I can, that salvage patina light. We can even go back in with salvage patina and add a little bit more of that on the tips. Building up layers will give us more intense color, which I love. I have a really hard time doing soft colors. Most of my stuff is a really bold color. I've kind of just had to embrace that over the years. But really, you can just have fun with this. Now, I'm going to let this dry a little bit. and kind of see what things look like, and I might dab in a little bit more color. But again, it's going to look really, really messy because I kept it in the backer piece, right? But you guys wait until we take it out. It's going to be marvelous. Hi, Mari. How are you? Okay, so now we're going to go back to this. So we started one of the leaves, right? We did cracked pistachio. And I want like a darker version of cracked pistachio, but kind of evergreen bough is a little too dark. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of that evergreen bough and mix it in with my cracked pistachio. And that's what I'm going to start to put here and there on these leaves, kind of like what I see as the base and the underneath. And I'm going pretty pigment heavy, just kind of plopping some of that on. We're going to even it out in just a minute, but I kind of want to get this all established first. But anywhere I had done cracked pistachio, I'm doing a little mix of evergreen bough and cracked pistachio, okay? So now I'm cleaning my brush, and I want to make sure I just have a damp brush so that it won't drip. And I'm going and just dabbing where I left off with that color. And it's going to soften it and kind of blend it towards that lightest area of the cracked pistachio. After you do a few, you want to clean your brush again and make sure it's damp. Because again, by dabbing, we're picking up pigment and it's sitting on your brush. So you don't want to leave it on your brush too long, because it's just going to be a whole lot of pigment that you're then going to pounce onto your next set of leaves, right? And we're actually just trying to blend. We're not trying to add more color, right? Sorry, I kind of lost my words there. But we're just softening the transition, okay? So now that I have that done, and again, I find this like so relaxing. I could do this forever, but I do appreciate your time that you're here with me today. So I'm going to try not to overwork any of it. But so now my other set of leaves, right? We did we do evergreen bough? I think we did. So now I'm going to go in with some pine needles, which is going to be really dark. And same thing, I'm going to add some of this to the base, a lot of pigment, and kind of whatever I feel is the under part of the leaf. Again, one side. Just choose one side. It's all going to look pretty no matter what. I'm not worrying about any light source or anything like that. I'm just trying to get a variety of color, shades, texture from the watercolors. But I'm just starting at the base and then just dabbing a little bit up whatever leaf I'm working on. Okay, so again, cleaning my brush, nice damp brush so it won't drip. And then we're just kind of pulling that shadow up into the leaf and softening things. Do a couple leaves. These are really small, so you can do a couple. Then clean your brush so that you don't have any pigment left behind. Because again, you're just going to keep transferring that extra pigment from one leaf to another. And we don't want to do that. We're blending. Okay. Just kind of, this one I feel needs a little bit more shadow. So I'm going even darker. And I'll let that sit a minute. So hopefully this makes sense, but it's really just having fun and watching what the colors do and watching what the watercolor does and mingles with the water and moves around. Like these leaves have some lines, like some indentations, details on the leaves. So things are going into the nooks and crannies, and it's just, I find it so relaxing to just sit here and like dip and dab and have fun with it, right? I just find it very, very relaxing. But I know watercoloring can be stressful for some people, but I do think the more that we play with it, the less stressful it'll be, right? So I'm going to let this dry a little bit. We're going to do the stem and the berries, but I want everything to be dry because if I start to color this stem and things are wet, the stem color is going to start to bleed into the leaves. So I'm going to wait a couple minutes for that. But let's look back at our letters. Ooh, these look really good, actually. I'm going to go in with a damp brush and just dab a couple areas. But these look... Oh, see, like this L, I lost my whole ombre. It's just all one color. And that's okay. Probably a drip of water was there and it kind of just washed it all together. So what I'll do is I'll just go back to my worn lipstick and we're going to add that down about halfway or 3/4 of the letter, right? And then I will go ahead and just pick up a little bit of Festive Berries and a little bit of worn lipstick and do the bottom part of the letter. We'll just add it back. That's why I just feel watercoloring can be so forgiving. It's easy to take away color and to add more color back in. Great. I'm going to let that dry a little bit since that L is wet. Let's go back to our snowflakes. These look great. I'm just going to add a little bit more pigment because I do want them to be a little bit more bolder. So this is some peacock feathers. Just add in a little bit. I just feel like I lost a little bit of that with the blueprint sketch or chip sapphire that I added. So we'll just add a little bit more, and I'm just dabbing some water, and then to get some movement, and then I will just add a little bit more chip sapphire. Again, I love bold, so it's usually what I'm going for. Okay, and then just dabbing, just to kind of get things to mingle together. All right, and we'll let that dry. Okay, so back to the leaves. I kept it really simple. I'm just going to add some pumice stone for my stem. I was going to do brown, but I really wanted to kind of keep this card very icy cool. So I felt the pumice stone, it's a gray, but it has like a brown undertone. And I just thought that would be so pretty. So we're just adding that to all of these stems. Again, this looks very, very light right now. So I'll go back in once it dries and just add a little bit more on top to build up the layer. But we're just going right down the stem. Let's see here. This piece isn't staying in the backer very well. It's being a pain. But we'll make it work. There we go. Okay, now just going over it again. Again, I'm not using a lot of water, so it isn't taking long for things to dry. Plus, it's winter, so we have the heat running, and that does help too. Okay, so now I added a little bit of red to my berries. Okay. And for that, I'm going to just pick up from the tip of my worn lipstick that had some mix of the festive berries and the worn lipstick. Because you guys know me, if I'm going to use red, it's usually a pinky red. And we'll just add that to those. There we go. All right. So this is probably done. I'm going to pull it out of the backer in a minute and I'll be able to tell. It looks like my letters are done-ish. I'm going to add a little bit more red at the bottom of that L that I'm fixing. Just feel like it needs a little bit more so that it looks a little bit more ombre-ish. Like I said, I could play with these all day, but I won't. I won't keep you guys. But there we go. What happens is I keep getting a big water droplet on this L, and that's why it's becoming a pain. There we go. All right, let's let that be. And now let's quickly do our background. So for the background, I kept it very simple. This background here, I'm trying to remember, I don't remember if I used acetate or not. I'm going to do it the not acetate way. I feel like we've done that acetate technique before during these Get Crackin'. So I'm using the smooth side of distress watercolor cardstock. And I used salvage patina, but what I'm going to actually do, I just got red on my cardstock, so just a little water will take that away. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take my distress sprayer and I'm just adding some water to my watercolor cardstock. I was not trying to wet it all over, but just to get some water, some movement. And with a very wet brush, I'm picking up pigment and starting to lay it down. And because I sprayed a little bit of water, it's helping the process of getting this pigment to move around. And of course, I want to kind of keep my edges white. I'm also going to trim this, but I want to kind of keep that organic look. So you'll see I'm just kind of slapping on some water and slapping on some pigment. I'm not putting too much thought into it. And then we will dry this layer with the heat tool. Oh gosh, I've got red pencil on my finger and I keep adding it. We're going to trim this, but a little water will take this away too. Let me see if I can get that off my finger. I'm going to spray some alcohol just because it's like problematic. See, red, red, red. Problematic. Okay. So see how my cardstock is curling, right? Like this. That's a natural occurrence when watercolor cardstock gets wet. But I don't want all these drips to stay on the edges. So I'm just going to gently give it a little tug back the other way. And now it's a bit more flat. So we're going to dry this layer and then we're just going to do one more layer on top of that. All right. Is everybody doing okay out there? You're awfully quiet all of a sudden. I just checked YouTube and I am still live, so just making sure because I wasn't seeing any comments come through. I've actually been getting quite a few emails lately with people that are interested in the distress watercolor pencils. They have them, but they haven't played with them. I do have 2 online technique classes, all dedicated to distress watercolor pencils. It's not required, but I would take part 1 first and then part 2. But besides that, I have so many posts and videos that I have shared using distress watercolor pencils on my website. So that's also helpful to look at. But most importantly, just practice with them. Just practice. So this time I'm not going to spray ahead of time with my distress sprayer because I don't want those watermarks to show up. I am going to end up using my distress sprayer in a more concentrated manner in a minute. But you can see I have a very soupy wet brush and I'm just picking up pigment and kind of just laying it down here and there so that I'll get a few pockets of darker color. Okay. And I'm not really thinking too much about it. Okay, now I will take my distress sprayer And I'm kind of toggling it so that I'm not doing a fine mist all over. I'm doing the drips. And this way, I can kind of break up these edges where my paintbrush left off. And when it starts to dry, it's going to get a little bit more of an organic look and not a paintbrushy look. All right. So make sure my finger's clean, but I'm going to kind of just touch and move this around. And then we're going to dry it again. If it's bending so that everything's dripping to the edges, I would bend it back. But right now mine is staying pretty flat. You can see I'm going to move this water around as I'm drying it. Using the Ranger heat tool, you guys, is life-changing when you're doing inky techniques versus an embossing gun. I talk about this a lot. But also picking your cardstock up off of your table surface so that the heat can radiate through the paper, bounce off your table, and come up the back will help things dry faster as well. And I'm kind of just like letting the water move, drying it a little bit, letting the water move a little bit more, and that's how I'm getting these yummy vein marks, water vein marks. Ah, thanks, Chris. Yeah. Libby says the red's punishing me because of what I say about it. I'd say it again. I'd say it again. Let's see. Dawn says I had to find my phone underneath my pile so I could respond. I'm on an ADHD side quest rearranging my cabinet and desk. Oh boy, I feel for you. I'm sure it's always worse before it gets good, right? Always. Yay, Tracy's resting. Good. You deserve to rest, Miss Tracy. All right. So there we go. Nice and dry. It's curled. I'm not worried about that. I know everybody always worries about that. Once I get it trimmed and put on my card, it's going to be nice and flat. But right now it's a little curled. But see all those really yummy water veins we got by adding that second layer of pigment? I love that look, but I wanted it to be soft and subtle. Now, the last thing I did to this background is I splattered some peacock feather distress watercolor pencil. So to do that, I just want to get a nice soupy brush, pick that peacock feathers pigment up. You can even see it on the tip of my brush. And I'm just going to tap my paintbrush over my background and just get some teal splatters. Okay. And we're going to set that aside, let that air dry for the most part. And the next thing I want to do is all of these layers that I watercolored, they're dry enough now. I want to add some white splatter to them. So the way that I do that, just moving things aside because I'm going to bring my splat cardboard box in. I use a Simon Says Stamp card box, card kit box. For the most part. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just lay things down on my table. But I'm going to lay these in here. Now, I have a very, I think, cute sweatshirt on, and it's brand new. And I do not want white splatter on here. So what I actually do is I take my flour sackcloth, which you guys can see in the upper corner, and I bib myself. I do this a lot. With my sweatshirts. But I bib myself so that I've got my flour sackcloth covering me. And I am going to use my Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. All right, you guys are all still here. Just checking. You guys don't have to chat at me all the time. I'm pretty good at talking to myself. I just was like, oh boy, something go wrong. That's all. I immediately think something has gone on with the tech. All right. So I'm going to take some of this white and we're going to just splatter it all over. Same way, I'm just tapping my brush, getting those droplets to fall. No rhyme or reason, just to give it some snowy texture. Okay. And we're going to set this aside to dry, and I'm just going to leave it right in its splat box. Now, even though I use the splat box, I still got white splatters all over my desk over here. But most importantly, I do not have any on my very cute brand new sweatshirt. Can't tell you how many of my crafty gear items have become craft room only because I've splattered them. The one that bums me out the most is my 25th anniversary Crop on the Cape sweatshirt. I got black splatters on it. It's not bad, but enough that I wouldn't want to wear it out in public personally. Okay, so this is dry. I am going to just dry it a second because a white splatter went on there and I don't want it to smear. But we're going to trim this down and we're going to stamp the sentiment on here. Just make sure everything's good to go. Linda's still here doing some chores while listening to you. Yay. I'm going to a class a couple times a month where we make cards for a veterans home. I need to make a few Easter spring cards. That's awesome. Yay. Martha says, so funny, but a great idea. I splatter my entire desk. Hey, I did still splatter my desk, but I didn't want anything on my sweatshirt. No, no, no. All right, so we're going to trim this down to be 4 by 5 1/4. So I am taking 1/8 of an inch off on all 4 sides. That's going to get rid of that red smudge. So that's why I wasn't as concerned about it. I still won against the red, Miss Libby. I am not very friendly to red, I know, but I omit purple a lot just because I want more room for teal. However, 2026 has been a very purpley year for me, I have to say. I have been using purple so much, and I know I have because every time I do in my head, I'm like, ooh, Brienne and Libby would be so proud of me. All right. What are you using Distress White Heavy Stock? No, this is Distress Watercolor cardstock. Anytime I'm using water, I am using Distress Watercolor cardstock. Distress White Heavy Stock is my most favorite to ink blend on, but definitely not water. All right, so let's see. Fa la 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 la. So the first time I did May Your Christmas Be Joyful and Bright. I like to switch it up when I'm doing a second card. So maybe Fa la 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 Happy Holidays will do. Just so I have kind of 2 different cards. So I'm going to grab this Happy Holidays. And I wanted it to be subtle. Again, I'm kind of going for that icy, cool tone. So what I used was Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide. So I use Distress Oxide quite often when I want to stamp something in color because of the pigment property. It actually stamps really nicely, and then I have a nice variety of colors, right? So we're gonna ink this up and go ahead and stamp it. It's curling, so that's why I'm using that Best Ever craft tape to hold it in place. And I'm probably going to stamp it one more time just to get a nice bold impression. I'm actually going to grab one more piece of brand new Best Ever craft tape. I just feel like this is dying to move. And while I'm live, I really don't want to mess up my whole background. That's the stuff I do behind the scenes on my own time. Let's see. Oh, phew. Okay, there we go. Just needed that second impression to get a little bit of a bolder look. All right. Okay. So now let's see how my things are doing over here. I might zap them with my heat tool. The white splatter, the Dr. P.H. Martin, does dry fairly quickly, but I did literally just do it. So let's just, for the sake of live video, let's speed it along with some heat tool. Brienne says, and we are so proud when you use purple. And Libby says, yes, you're doing purple proud lately. Libby says red will strike again soon. Oh, wait, what? You aren't using your stitch rectangle dies. I know. I sometimes just trim it, and sometimes I use the Lawn Fawn outside in stitch rectangle. It just depends what mood I'm in. Tracy says she normally slips her robe on if she doesn't want to splatter all the things. That's a great idea. I actually don't own a bathrobe, so that I would need to buy a bathrobe first. I keep looking outside because there's tons of bird activity today on my feeders, which are just outside my window. But yesterday, I looked out and there was a huge, great red-tailed hawk sitting on the top of my bird feeder. And I'm like, Chris was down the hall and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wasn't scared of it. One, I don't want to see it murdering any of my friends out there. I know they have to eat, but I just don't want to see it. But it just shocked me. He was so big and I didn't get a photo fast enough and he flew off and the whole bird feeder was rocking. He did not get anything, but he certainly made everybody a little nervous for sure. Look at that. Once it's out of the backer, it just looks so pretty. All right, so that's going to start to go there. Then we can start to just gently take our snowflakes out. Again, I just held all of that in with some Best Ever craft tape. Now, you guys know that I typically reuse my Best Ever craft tape over and over and over and over and over again. Just be careful reusing this because sometimes there's a lot of watercolor left on it from seeping through, and you don't want to accidentally add watercolor to your next project. So if it looks good, use it, but just be cautious of that. And just don't get mad at me where you're like, oh, Jen says she always uses it over and over. I do, but when I add it on a backer like that, I typically will toss it and be done with it. So we're just getting all these little bits out. And it just looks so pretty. Again, you kind of don't know what it's going to look like until you take it away from that backer. Kind of have to trust the process. But that looks great. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to adhere our snowflakes. And I just adhered them down flat on my card. And I just kind of used the greenery as I don't glue the greenery down yet. It's just there so I can kind of figure out where I want to lay things. I'm going to use Distress Collage Medium. I think it's a little bit stronger, and I'm going to use it in a little bit when I glitter all of the things. So I figure just to keep it simple, we'll just use one wet adhesive today. And I'm just adding some Distress Collage Medium on the back of my snowflakes, but it doesn't need to be everywhere. Just here and there works. Okay. And then we're going to have this one go in the upper corner. I already figured out the placement. I already, drooled over where I was going to place each snowflake. So I'm not changing that up. And I just put an acrylic block down so that it'll weight it down as that glue sets. And now we're going to go ahead and glue our next one. And if a little of this glue oozes out, that's fine. It dries matte, it dries clear. We're going to kind of put that one here. And then we got one little more to go. Brienne is giving me a subtle hint. She's like, I have the most amazing aprons in my shop. I actually have it hanging right behind me here. I need to get better at wearing it. Thank you, Brienne. I always have my flour sackcloth handy. So it's just, if I'm doing a lot of messy stuff, I do put my apron on. All right, so we're just going to put a block on those guys, let that glue set. Now I wanted to pop this greenery up. So what I did is I just put some foam squares behind the chunkiest points, wherever I can find room to put a sliver of foam is what I did. Hello, Heather. Terry's embroidering flowers on her favorite jeans. Yay. She says it's snowing in Connecticut again. I think we're going to get a little bit of rain, but I think we're not going to get snow this week. Hi, Yuko. Thank you. Yay. Yuko's excited for my Crop and Create class. I haven't even really thought about that too much. I'm more focused on, it's like, only a few days until Crop on the Cape, my in-person event, happens. So that's kind of been on my brain. Making all the lists. I get to give Miss Libby a hug in real life. I'm very excited for that. And also just seeing a lot of people that have been coming to the event. This will be our 27th year that the event is happening. So that's pretty exciting. It started back in 1999. I've been part of it since 2003 and running it since 2018. But it's just so fun. There's some people that have been coming almost all 27 years. And then we always have a good group of newbies every year, which I love as well. All right, I think that's everywhere I can hide a foam square. I'm going to try to do one right up here. Oh, yeah. Halves of those foam squares work out really, really well. Let's see. Can I fit one down here? Nah, it's a little too chunky. That's okay. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and add this to our card, and then we'll get our fa la 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 letters on, and then we're going to glitter all of the things. Add some gems. Love it. All right, so now I'm just going to take this and actually let me grab my card base. Let me actually put this on my card base because something I like to do is when I trim, whether I use my trimmer or my Lawn Fawn outside in, I like to kind of go out of the bounds a little bit, right? So I like having that really nice, clean white border, but I also really like to go out of bounds because I have that 1/8 of an inch all over and it kind of just looks really cool. And so I'm probably going to do that a little bit with a leaf. So having it on the card base will show me how far I can go. So I'm just using some foam tape to pop this layer up. This is what's going to really help it flatten out. This is why I was not concerned that it was a little bumpy from the watercoloring. Aw, Brienne says she's extra large jealous of the in-person Jen and Libby hugs. Aw. Well, I did get to see you, Brienne, but it already seems like it was forever ago. Okay. There we go. So now, as I go to put this layer down, right, I'm able to kind of figure out if I go out of bounds a little bit. I don't want to cover my happy holiday sentiment. I'm okay going over the snowflake a little bit. Let's see, but this leaf over here can kind of go out of bounds. And I can even bend it a little bit so it's in bounds. There we go. So pretty, right? And so now we're going to add our fa la la letters. Now, when I first started to do this, I was like, oh, I got to line them up so they're nice and straight, you know, like I've shared on my Make Art Station. And I was like, no, these are so fun. They do not need to be nice and straight. Oh, look, I just realized I have an extra la, so I didn't even need to fight with that L. Oh, gosh. So pick your most favorite, get rid of the other. But what works out great is the foam strips for the backs of these letters. So I think I can use a full foam square behind the A's. So we'll do that. And then I will get my white foam strips to go behind the other parts of the letters. And so like the L, I'm just putting a foam strip behind the largest part of the L. I don't need to have it everywhere. It'll be enough to work. And same thing with the F. I will go down, but I'll put a little bit on the top. I might end up having to take some of this off if it's overlapping the greenery, but we will find out. Okay. It was too long ago, I know. Yay! Libby is finishing up her kitting for Crop on the Cape classes this week too. Yay! Libby's teaching 2 Pink and Main classes, which is so fun. Kelly Taylor is teaching with Trinity stamps and honeybee stamps. I'm teaching a Lawn Fawn class. There's mixed media classes. Sharon, my friend Sharon is teaching. Cheryl Mazzetti is teaching. And then we've got like some home decor classes. The girls from Scrappy Chic in Michigan are coming. It's going to be so much fun. So this is what I mean. These letters, you do not need to line them up perfectly. I really think however you glue them down, because they're so whimsical, is going to look super, super cute. And you can already tell the way my greenery is on here looks a little different than how I put it on my original card, because I'm going to have room for this F, I think, without overlapping the greenery. So you never know. No 2 cards are ever alike, right? Look at that. All right, so now my most favorite part, well, let's say one of my favorite parts, because I really love watercoloring, of course, is adding all of the embellishments to it, right? So first, let's add a few gems from Honeybee Stamps. And again, this is the Holiday Wishes set, but I have right in my drawer next to me, like all the sets, and they just, again, they have such a good variety of colors. I love them so much. But we're going to go ahead and add a few of these because there's never enough sparkle. And same thing, I already agonized on where I should put each gem, so I'm not going to do that now. I'm just going to copy what I agonized over already. Right? Good, good, good. Call that good. Okay, so now we're going to glitter all of the things. And I actually used 2 different glitters. I used the regular Distress Rock Candy Chunky on the bottoms of the letters. And this is where, going over to my website to see the card photos that I took, you can see it a lot better, I think. But this is Distress Rock Candy Chunky. I'm sorry, Distress Rock Candy Clear on the bottoms of the letters, and Dips and Dabs on the leaves. And then on the snowflakes, I used Distress Rock Candy Chunky, and then I added some glossy accents to the berries. So let me go ahead and grab my glitters. So I keep my glitters in glitter storage containers that I carry in my shop. We'll start with the Distress Rock Candy Clear. Doesn't really matter which one we start with. I just want to make sure that I do the glossy accents last, because glossy accents will pick up on the glitter. So that's just my biggest concern. All right, so I'm using Distress Collage Medium because it's a nice strong glue to hold on to all this chunky glitter. And I'm just adding it to the bottoms of the letters. Distress Collage Medium, it comes out white, but it will dry clear. So it'll look cloudy until it's dry, and that's okay. And I'm very generous when I put it on. And just tap it off over my glitter storage container. And now all of these leaves, I am just going to dip and dab, meaning just hit them a little bit here and there with some collage medium. I don't put any thought into where it's going. I just want it here and there. I don't want to coat the whole leaves, but I just want to have a little bit of shimmery sparkle here and there on the leaves. Okay. So again, bring up quite a bit of glitter. I use glitter on almost every card. I think you guys know this, but I can pretty much guarantee you won't see me make a holiday card without glitter. The only time I do is when I teach at a trade show for Lawn Fawn, because when we're teaching, we don't typically use glitter, but it kills me to do holiday cards without glitter. Okay, so you can see the glue where I put it, and I'll show my original in a minute, where everything is dry. So that's what I did with the Distress Rock Candy Clear. This is the original rock candy. And now we've got Distress Rock Candy Chunky. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm in love with this glitter. I've actually been using it on a lot of everyday cards because it looks so magical. It's a clear chunky glitter. So I still love my Lawn Fawn chunky glitter, but that one's a little bit more iridescent, lots more colors to it. And so what's nice about this is if you don't want bring in all those colors, this is clear. So I just think there's a time and a place for it all. Again, I'm in my glitter era. Now this Distress Rock Candy Chunky was a seasonal item. So it came out last fall for the holiday season. And my understanding is Ranger is not producing it throughout the year. But I can guarantee you I bought a lot for my online store because I just knew I was going to be using it all year. And I didn't want to enable you, in June and not have you be able to get it. So I do stock it, but it's just so pretty. Oh my gosh, I love it. And keeping everything in these glitter storage containers, you can see I don't have glitter go everywhere. It all stays nicely contained. All right, and then the last little thing I did is I just used a little bit of glossy accents on the berries. Just doing like a little dollop. Glossy accents will keep its shape. It'll stay where you put it without running as long as you store it flat to dry. All right, it does look a little cloudy as well at first until it dries clear. So let me set this aside. Let me bring in cooking show style my finished one. So again, chunky clear glitter up here, and then rock candy glitter down here and on the letters. And then you can see I've got that glossy accents on the berries. And I just think that looks so fun. Yeah, Melissa says glitter is always in season. I agree. And Brienne says holiday cards without glitter should be illegal. I agree with that as well. See, this is why we're all friends. Thank you, Mari. It is an amazing weekend, Crop on the Cape. I love it. I love it. Oh, yay. Libby signed up for my in-person class. I forgot that you did that, Miss Libby. All right. So let me know if you guys have any questions about this card. Hopefully I inspired you to get cracking on Christmas. Before I let you go, I do want to remind you of some fun stuff I have coming up. So I'm actually going to be alive, not alive, I am alive. I'm going to be live again this week on Lawn Fawn's YouTube channel on March 5th. I'm going to be joining Kelly Marie, and we are hosting another free mini class. It's our Create With Us classes, and we are going to be featuring the new Lawn Fawn set called I Like Big Butterflies, which I love that name. It is so much fun. And then after Crop on the Cape, I think March 21st is the date, I'll be hosting my online class, Flutter and Fabulous. So we're going to be playing with I Like Big Butterflies again. What's great about taking both the classes, the free one and the affordable one, is you'll get even more coloring guides, even more ideas, and you'll be inspired even more to create with your supplies. So in Flutter and Fabulous, if you can't tell, not only are we going to be creating with some really cute Lawn Fawn images, we're going to be working with our distress watercolor pencils again. And if you can't tell, there is distress rock candy chunky all over those cards because it's just so pretty. And then, like I mentioned at the beginning of the live, my virtual creative journey art retreat is June 6th and 7th. Registration for that is still open. And I would absolutely love for you to join me. There'll be other fun stuff coming in between the Flutter and Fabulous class and the Creative Journey Art Retreat, but I can't share any of that stuff with you just yet. And then I do want to mention I will be traveling to Minnesota to teach some in-person classes at Firefly Farm. I love visiting my friend Trisha at her store. There's a Lawn Fawn soiree going on at her retreat center across the street from her store. But I'll also be hosting some in-store classes, Busy Buddies and Spring Showers. And if you're a big Lawn Fawn fan, you might see some sneak peeks in these photos. Some of them I had to hide with that little top secret square. We're going to be creating with the spring release that just came out, and then we're also going to be creating with the spring 2 release that is yet to be out. And then Trisha's hosting another Fawn Fest. Fawn Fest is actually an online event, a virtual event, and she ships you a fun box of goodies, and there's a bunch of different classes and make and takes, all featured around our love of Lawn Fawn. So it's a lot of fun. All right, so you guys, that was Get Crackin' on Christmas for February, even though it's March. The next Get Crackin' on Christmas, remember, it is the 3rd Thursday of the month. So I will post on my website on March 19th. And within that post is when I'll let you guys know when I plan to go live. I don't really plan those ahead of time. I learned a long time ago when I used to try to plan them, something always gets in the way. So during my blog post on March 19th, I will let you guys know when I plan to go live, and you will be able to see the project that we will be making. Miss Brienne is linking all the things. Thank you so much, Brienne. Libby says that I had Lori at cocktail cards. Yeah. So my in-person class next week at Crop on the Cape is called Happy Hour. And so it's using all the Build to Drink dies from Lawn Fawn, and I'm really excited about that. I designed those cards back in October though, so I really need to refresh my memory on those. Yay, I'm going to see Melissa at Firefly Farm again this year. So excited. Very, very excited. Tracy says Fawn Fest. This sounds amazing. It is pretty amazing. I can't say Trisha's like the best at hosting virtual events because I host virtual events, but she's up there. She's up there. She and I have this like sarcastic, joking friendship. So if she heard me right now, although I know she doesn't, she would chuckle. Yay, I'm going to see Chris in Minnesota. I love that. I think Melissa is newer to taking my classes at Firefly Farm, but Chris, I think you've been taking my classes since I started teaching at Firefly Farm. You're welcome, Sandy. She says, thanks for getting us motivated for Christmas. Andrea says, thanks so much for this evening, full of fun creating Christmas cards. You're welcome, because she's in Switzerland, so it is later. Mari, thanks, beautiful Jen. You always make the day better. Well, thank you, Mari. Thanks for popping in. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Christine. And yes, Sandy, I'm assuming you're going to be at the L'Enfant Soiree. I'm guessing. Yay. Thank you, Susan. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. And I'm so glad that I was able to reschedule this live. Shari was amazing. She was able to pop into my YouTube channel and get it all rescheduled for me when I had no power, no internet, and very, very little cell service. And I've had to help her out in the past when she had all that crazy weather in North Carolina. So as much as I wish I lived closer to my crafty friends, it is kind of nice when you get into those types of predicaments. Yay! Well, thank you, Yuko. She says mixed media is being fun for me because of your teachings. Well, thank you so much. Susan says, any hint on the next Get Cracking? I will be in Massachusetts and need to bring it with me. I wish, Susan. I'm hoping to get it designed before Crop on the Cape because I just know how tired I am when I come back. But I'm also really busy getting my projects ready for the Creative Journey Art Retreat so that I can send all the kitting materials to those that are helping me with the, over 300 kits times 12 plus cards. So I have no idea. The long answer is I have no idea what I'll be using for Get Crackin'. I do get cracking pretty last minute. You can ask Brienne, who helps me with my blog posts sometimes. I'm pretty last minute. I flip through my holiday bin and just see what inspires me. So I wish I could be more helpful. But remember, you do not need to have the exact supplies when you're creating, right? All right, you guys, I hope you have a fabulous Tuesday. Happy March. We'll see each other again later this month. And if you didn't have a chance to get crafty with me today, I hope you have a chance to get some creative time really, really soon. Have a great day, you guys. Bye.